that umkaya in English is homegirl. Basically, we're coming from the same province, and there is no town in between our towns, Tshepo. Just for information's sake. And I've got good Nomava as well as Tshepo. Tshepo is not new to the family. We had him a couple of weeks ago coming through, and we were still, he came with Wabchef.
Jeff, yes, yes.
We're talking on fatherhood. And the beautiful thing today is that Tshepo is joining us alone, flying solo.
That's in.
Tshepo, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good.
Dedicated once more to fathers matter. That's our focus today, the importance of fathers. But if you remember, Tshepo is a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sharing the last time his story on how he gets to play a fatherly role to his nephew. So welcome back, Tshepo. Welcome
Thank you,
back.
ma'am.
If you can give us a full introduction, then we go back to Nomava, our
Okay.
author today.
No, perfect. Thank you. The name is Tshepo from Hardlines.
How is it Tshepo and then Sithole? Isn't Tshepo Sotho and Sithole
You
Zulu?
know what? I
Cocktail.
think so. We have one of our programs we have in Hardlines is called What's Your Story?
So
And
there's
look,
your story.
there's a story there. Yeah.
I
So,
get it.
as I like to say, born, bred, and buttered from Soweto, and
Hmm.
working for Hardlines, mostly focusing on the youth element within the organization. Sure.
All right. And I've got Usis Nomavatiko. Let me allow you to introduce yourself properly.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. My name is Nomava Diko, originally from Eastern Cape. I learned that on social media we're being called Butter Kids.
Para kids, what's that?
It's butter with butter.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yes, yes. I'm original from Butterworth, and then I stay here in Pretoria. I'm self-employed.
Oh,
Yes,
businesswoman.
yes, businesswoman.
Love to hear it.
Thank you.
So this is really interesting. I'm really loving the direction of this conversation, and I'm saying this because we're still on fathers matter, but we're talking also fatherhood from a young person's perspective. And I don't want this to be misinterpreted, Tshepo, because I actually wrote in our Facebook from youthful fatherhood,
Mm.
and one might
Mm.
be thinking teenage pregnancy. I don't think that's our focus
No, no,
today.
no.
It cannot be our focus. And also, fusing in that today, like I said, Nomava is actually an author, and she focuses on parenthood.
Mm.
Parenthood and
Mm.
parenthood is not just about fathers. And I think it's one of the things you guys have also been bringing to our attention, also as hotlines, to say the focus is on dads because we want to make sure that we restore the dignity of dads. Not only that, but also we make sure that the children are looked after.
Mm.
But while we at it, there's also a relationship that is one broken, but also a relationship that has to be restored in general.
Mm.
Because for that dad to play that role also, so the importance of a father um, using this or on the strength of diminishing mothers.
Mm.
Did you get my point?
Sure, sure.
So we're still on fathers matter. Yep, because fathers matter. And so, Tip, I think it's important to start here. Let's talk about the programs, the projects that Heartlines actually delivers, and give us context on who Heartlines is. Firstly, let's go there.
Sure. I think just a brief intro. Whenever we speak about headlines, we refer people back to Soul City. If
Eh.
you remember Soul City, the work that Soul City used to do from
Mm,
research within the HIV space and educating people using multimedia
mhm,
to do that. So Hardlines, what Hardlines does is, or who Hardlines is to say, on a day-to-day basis, we commit to certain values. If you go to someone say, "Give me your 5 values," they will tell you, "I'm respectful.
mm.
That these beautiful values." But the Hardlines then challenges us to say, "Okay, give me those 5 values and tell me where today did you apply them."
Sure.
And that's what we want to do. And
Mm,
so we are pushing the values conversation using multimedia. We look at the social challenge. We conduct extensive academic and non-academic research within that topic.
mhm,
For example, Fathers Matter. When you go to our website on Fathers Matter, you do have the data and the research that we've conducted
Mm.
around Father's Matter. So once the topic is then out, we then say, okay, there's a high chance that not everyone has a academic appetite to read a
Of
30
course.
page, 50-page document, right?
It's true.
How do we then interpret that research into film and multimedia? Then we
Mm.
then produce films
And
within the
make it
and make it
interesting.
interesting, right?
Mm.
After the film, then what? We then create workshops and engagements that people can use at their own space. Like you can go
Mm.
to the Fathers Matter website, access discussion guides, watch a film, and have a conversation about it. So
Mm.
that's who Headlines in is in essence, and that's what we do
And
currently.
another medium is you actually saying we're coming to radio to give
Yes,
clarity on
yes,
this.
yes, yes.
I love the sound of that. Now, Headlines is known for using storytelling, like you said, to promote positive values. How do their programs specifically engage young people, and what impact have you seen?
So there's a process that we have called What's a Story.
Mm.
So within What's a Story, we have what we call bridge leadership engagement.
Mm.
Funny enough, we were in PE about 2 weeks ago with my colleague Babu Ndlovu. Well, he's literally my age, but I like calling him Babu Ndlovu.
Okay.
And we did a bridge leadership engagement using the What's a Story tool. And the feedback that we got from young people then, and which we do a lot, is that
Mm.
after having shared my story,
Mm.
I feel very light. I feel way
Mm.
better. So one of the things that Hotline does towards the stories to say, let's create a safe space for young people to share their stories.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it becomes like an informal counseling session.
Mm.
And that's what young people currently need. They need to be heard. They need
Yeah.
to be in a safe environment,
Mm.
and also they need to be encouraged. But in them also being encouraged, they need a voice that says,
Mm.
"I am here with you." And sometimes listening, that's one of the things we promote, which is active listening.
Hmm.
Active listening, where they say, "Learn to listen with your heart," and that's what young people want right now.
Hmm.
Sometimes when a young person comes to you and share their story, they're not asking for advice. They just want you to listen with your heart.
That's interesting. I think while we are at that, actually, I want to throw something to Sister Nomava because he's talking about listening to young people. And I'm going to say, I'm going to try and box it and say to children. That's young people are children, really, actually
Yes.
think about it. One of the things you speak about in your book, like you said, is making sure that we're cognizant of their feelings. Maybe if you can speak to exactly what he's saying today, it would see, they really just want to hear that we understand them. How important is that as parents, actually? And I'm glad we're touching on this as parents generally, not
Mm.
just fathers, like I said. How important is it for us to understand our children's feelings?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question. Uh, to step in on what my colleague just mentioned is mainly what we focus on the book is about the wellness, the emotional wellness being of of a children, right?
Mm,
And then went as far to get to a point of understanding first the parent that gave birth to the
mm,
children. How well is the parent?
hmm,
And at some point, you found out that there are circumstances that people they go through, right? So here's the child. I mean, the parent gave birth to to this child, and then there is an unpleasant circumstances that the
in
child.
their relationship.
Yes, no, no,
Okay.
not as per se in yes, in a relationship of the parents, right?
Yes.
And then unfortunately, biology is biology. Then you give birth to the child.
Hmm.
Now, this book is focusing on on that point of how is your status on that, and
Mm,
then how well is your being emotional first as a parent
okay.
before you focus in the children's wellness being. But
Hmm.
now, because at some point you find out that it becomes the baby of the two parents, the mother and the father,
Hmm.
there's a fight in between. It's no longer
Mm,
now about the product, which is the children, right?
yeah.
So that's where we step in to say, oh, let's see. Then it's not all about the parents now, it's about the
Who's
children
the
that,
main focus?
yes, is the children.
Mm.
Then now we come in to say, a parent, are you, how is you
How are
in
your
know,
emotions?
yes, how are emotions towards this child,
Mm.
and you raising this child,
Mm-hmm.
and then do you know what fears and what bothering the child,
Mm.
and then do you know that whatever that it is bothering you as a parent,
Hmm.
at some point it has a negative impact towards the
On that
children that,
child.
yes. So that's where we mainly focusing that you need to be at the right status of your mind or
Mm.
emotional wellness being, so that you are able now to say, hey, it is not about me and him now.
Yep.
There's a third person, and then this third person, there's a creator who created us. Now if we say three of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you are somehow have an accountability as a parent
Okay.
towards this child that you gave birth to.
Mm-hmm.
So now, for you to get to a point of saying you are raising a child that at the end of the day he becomes who he becomes and who the Lord has placed in his inner man to become.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, for that point to come, or that being to become, you need a wellness emotional state. I mean, you need a good state in your emotional spirit, you as a child, I mean, you as a parent, and then
You
you
can
are
be a better parent.
better parent.
Mm.
And then at the end of the day, you raise that child that he is who he is being intended by the
Mm.
Lord to become.
Mm.
So on what my colleague has spoke about, I heard that you spoken about that you you need to listen by your heart, right? That's where I personally believe that by your heart, that's where now we say, let the creator of the heart to do what he is able to do because he is God,
Mm.
right? By listening to the story, and then you go outside and research and do what you think that it is relating on whatever that you do. But at some point, there is a higher wisdom that needs to address the heart that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe with that, by taking that responsibility back to the creator of the heart, then I think the problem is solved then.
I do believe that there's also strategies that you guys can employ at hotlines to deal with such. Now, with the challenges that today's youth face, like we spoke, unemployment, mental health struggles, which are quite real, which we just spoke about, also, and peer pressure. How does hotlines then help equip them with the right values and skills to navigate life? Because ultimately, after we've spoken about that emotional state,
Mm.
there has to be practicality, I
Sure.
believe. Hmm.
So, what we have done and still continue to do is that as an organization, our focus is the home. So,
Mm.
as much as you have done research, that, one of the questions that we always ask ourselves is that on a typical day, is the family able to do a what's a story engagement? Is the family able to
Mm.
do a father's mate engagement? And we've made those resources available within the like when you go on our website, you can literally download resources
Mm-hmm.
for like during COVID to produce resources for grief because a lot of
Mm,
families
we're
were losing.
losing
So how do we
members.
then use what a story as a tool within from a home perspective? But
Mm,
also, um, what we have also learned to do is to say, number one, we as an organization do not, to a certain extent, have direct access to the young people who may be feeling these feelings.
mm-hmm,
Um, and we have partnered with a number of organizations to help us help them use our resources and tools to do that.
mm-hmm,
So how Hardlines is then doing that is to then say, look, organization X that deals with young people, that deals with children,
mm-hmm,
come to us, let us train on how to use Hardlines resources
mm-hmm,
within the context of the work that you do. Because firstly, we had to acknowledge that we may not have the academic scale
Yeah.
to see if a child needs emotional or psychological support, right?
Mm.
But there are organizations on the ground who know how to do that. Let
Mm.
us capacitate them, and they then become the people who would help us in being able to
Mm.
say, how do we empower young people from a
Yeah.
mental well being perspective, from a financial well being perspective, and
Mm.
also from advocating for positive presence of the father in the life of the child.
So tell me, does Headlines then collaborate with schools, churches, or community organizations to reach people? And which organizations are you guys currently working with to implement some of your programs?
Definitely. So, there's an organization we've been doing amazing work with now, now amongst a lot of organizations we're working with. But then there's an organization called Camp Sizanani. So
Okay.
Camp Sizanani provides academic and psychosocial support to primary and high school learners.
Mm-hmm.
We engaged with them last year, and they implemented the Fathers Matter program, and they saw the impact that it has on the children.
Mm.
They do camps for these young people, and they use some of the Hardlands resources. We also, in the past few weeks, I've said we're in PE. We were with the Methodist Church that side. I'm forgetting the district we were in,
Mm-hmm.
and we were training youth leaders within that district
Mm-hmm.
to use hardline resources. So, in terms of partnerships and collaborations, that's how we work. With schools, a school may have an organization, or a school may say, these are our LO teachers, come and capacitate them in using
Mm.
this program. So, most of our time, or rather our approach in terms of partnerships and collaborations, it's us understanding that we may not have immediate access to the beneficiaries, for lack of a better word.
Mm.
We capacitate and help and assist those
Organizations.
organizations to be able to do that.
That's very clever, I must say. So, What's Your Story initiative has been impactful in fostering empathy and understanding. How has this program then been received by young people? And do you have any success stories?
We do. It's what's the story? It's quite amazing.
Mm.
I remember we were sitting in the office, with the team, and like, hey guys, we need to do our own notes of story, which we do as a company, as an organization. But we're saying we would love to just have our own experience
Mm.
of story sharing beyond what we do. So one thing we have learned, we have seen. I remember, just to give a practical example. Last year, we're doing work with an organization, the Salvation Army, and they wanted to launch Fathers Matter,
Mm-hmm.
and the youth leaders are then saying, "Amen. Where we are and what we want to achieve, this topic is very hard for our kids. Do you
Mm.
have anything else to
To
lay
make it
the foundation?"
alive, yes.
That's when we then brought What's Your Story and story sharing.
Aww.
So you get to see that the youth leaders, the young people, and the parents, to a certain extent, got to know each other before having to deal with
Mm.
this very, very heavy topic or heavy subject.
Mm.
So that's what the story does for young people. And we have seen young people taking initiatives in their
Mm.
youth groups to then say, how do we then create safe spaces so that when young people come to our Friday service, when young people come to our sessions on Wednesday, we are able to use What's Your Story as a tool, as a safe
Mm.
space, so that young people can become.
Sure. Speaking of What's Your Story, Sis Namav, what is your story? How did you even come about in scripting this book and understanding? Because I think, Tshepo, you probably will agree with me to say, and I always share this, I loved and pursued Father's Matter primarily because I had my father issues. And so the material, or what you guys do with Fathers Matter, resonated with me as well as a person who always had daddy issues. And so something leads us to doing something. What
Good.
led you to understanding? What is your story? And did you get to understand the little one's stories enough to say, hey, let's speak out for them?
Yes, yes. Thank you for the question. You know what? What has driven me to write the book, right? As you just mentioning, there's something that drives you. So what has driven me is my experience in my upbringing, right?
Oh.
So my experience in my upbringing, right? It was a journey, a long journey, to a point. At some point, I had decided to commit a suicide, right? But then God being God, He said no, right? So now, in the path of my of growing up as a child, I realized that somewhere, somehow, in fact, I realized then at a later stage that that's why somehow when I was a little girl, that there were things that I was like, I don't understand. And at some point, you know, as a child, you can't ask all. You can't ask everything and right? But
Especially growing up in black households,
Yeah.
it's difficult to ask all the relevant questions.
yes, yes, even though that it's in your mind, right? So I walked my journey then. At some point, in fact, let me say, the neighbors at my home, we were all surrounded by pastors, right? So we'll go to church, we'll go to Sunday schools. Then there's this particular one that he used to sing a song that says, "Uthando lukaBawo lukhulu lungaka lungaka." And in my journey, I'm like, hi man, what is this love is he talking
Yeah.
about? Right? At some point, I was like, no, 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 no. I don't have a solution on what I'm experiencing. So at the point of in time right now, when when I think about it, and also be learned in Christ's journey, I've concluded to say, oh, okay, you know what? The enemy has a way out to make sure that as a person you do not become who you're supposed to become. So what I read through is that he had made it a point that he has put it a pressure between I myself and my parent, right?
Okay.
So due to that pressure, and then learned in my journey with Christ, and then I learned I learned all in terms of, you know what, in fact right now I came to a conclusion to say all that I went through, it results in anger, it results in unforgiving spirits, it results in resentment and. So now, when I think about, in fact, all the experience that I've experienced then, it made me to value a child, not to take for
Okay.
granted a child. When I'm around a child, I need to pay attention,
Yep.
right? And also, how do I talk to a children? For example, right now, I'm doing a scholar transport services.
Oh.
So when I drive them, I take note of, oh, this one, there's something.
You look at the
And yes,
emotions,
look at the emotions. And it's not like I just look on the face,
and you can
because now
tell.
I once walked the journey and have understood and have came out of that. And then now I'm like, no, I cannot keep quiet.
You're more vigilant.
Yes, I cannot keep quiet now, because now if there was no Mava with my experience, then it means there is another legal Nomava. So when I read through my experience, it was like it was I just decided to unpack it maybe deep spiritually to understand what took place. And I think I understood to say, oh, okay, you know what? There is unpleasant circumstances in our lives and in our I think parents, right? So I've taken it to that angle of, I wonder what was happening around my parenting. What was the issue? And then for me to say now, parents, so I look at the angle to see, for sure there must be an unpleasant circumstance that has led to what I've experienced as a child. So I told myself now, I don't have to keep quiet. If I think if I want the if I'm looking broadly in terms of our government, in terms of churches, in terms of the country as at large, it takes a child that is being raised in a good foundation.
Yeah.
But now, in my understanding, in the principles that God has laid out for a children to raise up. So now I've taken a conclusion to say, in fact, a decision to say, you know what? It all takes the parenting. It all takes it all takes the parents, but how are they? I mean, they are well-being emotionally, and so that they are able to make sure that they raise their children in a way that they're supposed to be raised at.
All right. Let me throw it back to Tshepo. How accessible are other hotlines programs, particularly Fathers Matter and Value and Money?
Sure, as said, going on our website, it's very easy, www.hardlines.org.za. So when you go on the Hardlines website, there's the project tab on projects, then it will give you all the projects that we are doing and the resources that you may need for whatever project that you need to facilitate within your space, be it Values and Money, What's a Story, or Fathers Matter.
All right. Here's another question. Any youth focused events that you have in the coming weeks?
Yes, we have a youth leaders training in Soweto on the 15th of March. We are having a bridge leadership engagement on the 28th and the 29th of March in Durban. So yeah, currently that's what we are focusing on.
All right. For youth or parents listening right now who want to get involved in Hotlines programs, where can they start?
Yeah, I think firstly the website has said it has every resource you may need, but also what we have done, you may not be able to access our films on the website, but you can just go on YouTube. If you want the 6 Fathers Matter films, just type Fathers Matter, you will have access to all the films, and also Values and Money is on YouTube. Then Beyond the River is on Showmax. So yeah, you
You
like
guys are on that level.
look, we thank God. We thank God for His grace. Eh? Yeah,
Oh man,
sure.
I think here's an important one. I think Mrs. Nomava will also gain from this one as well,
Mm.
as somebody with an interest in children. Actually, if there's an organization and individual who would like to work with you, how do they get in touch with you?
I think you can drop us a WhatsApp. I think for young people in particular, you can get in touch with me or Fana Mashango. I can share Fana Mashango's. I had to send him a WhatsApp. I was like, "Do
For
you give me
permission.
permission?" you know, I mean, no, Fanandlov, not Fana Mashango. Fanandlov. His number is 071 427 8424. 071 427 8424. That's Fana's number. My number is 064 340 5108. 064 340 5108. Drop us a WhatsApp. Hey, we are interested in, and we'll make it available anywhere in the country where we can't
Anyway,
reach. Jesus will touch your heart.
even in better words. Sister
Yeah.
Nomava, I believe that you're launching your book
Yes,
very
yes.
soon. Please tell us more about it. When is it happening? What should we expect?
Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. Yes, the book launch is happening on the 1st of March, this coming Saturday,
Oh wow.
at Joburg Theatre. And then it starts 3:30 to 5:30. And then what to expect is just generally to interact as parents. As I'm saying, the main focus is, let's talk about, do you know the fears of the children that you are raising at home? Do you know what is their problems? And do you know they are yes, they are,
Their needs,
yes, their needs, and
even.
emotional specifically. Then so we will be just engaging, interacting about that. And also I've shared a lot of my journey, my experience, and even my experience with the current children that I'm working with. So I just want as parents to sit down and, more than anything, to, there's one thing that I think it wraps up all the book, is that I think for a human being to become, you need that fine, solid foundation.
Solid rock.
Yes.
Mm.
It just takes that. Because when you go back, why you have anger, why you have unforgiveness, and it's just that trauma, that soul, that somewhere somehow it got trapped, and then and it was not given a support, or it was not nourished accordingly. So if you look at it, that's what damages our lives in our today's. In the relationships, you go to the marriages and you come with your anger, I come with my anger, and we did not address the matter. What is the matter? And if you sit down and you accept that, look, I somehow happened to path in unpleasant circumstances that led me to have this anger. So I want us to interact in that. And what is our main belief on that? Personally, I do believe that with Christ, you are able. You are able. He's a restorer.
Okay. So, lastly, contact number of who we can contact in literally 10 seconds. Who can we contact if we would love to find out more about the event?
Please, you can contact me on my number 073 982 8665. I'm available on WhatsApp. You can also call on the number. Please, RSVP, because I already have some guests.
Oh, wow.
Please do.
You don't want to
do
miss
the right
out on
thing.
the day.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
don't want
so
to.
much, Tshepo. Tshepo, any last words before I say goodbye?
I think also with the heart of fathers matter. I know that verse in Malachi that we like. I will
The
restore
pastor comes out.
yes, yes. You know, I will restore the fathers to their children, and I'll restore the children to their fathers. But also, you get to see where it started. When God calls Abraham, He says, "I know that you will teach your children and your servants my laws."
Wow.
And that's the heart of fathers matters too, more than anything, for men and fathers out there to look at God as the perfect example of what their father is.
Wow. I love the sound of that. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through. Unfortunately, I've got to run to the news. I'm already late, but thank you so much and God bless you.
Thank you.
Reliable and relevant radio at the push of a button. Download our app now and listen online to Radio Pulpit, 657 AM.